everybody. Welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. It's Francis, and I have producer Jack Attack, back with us. Since you're producing for us, we got to come up with a fun little nickname for you.
Yeah, I just got an upgrade, a new position, producer. I've not been introduced that way before.
Producer Jack, sometimes host. Kids musician extraordinaire, one of the more accomplished people that we have working on this program.
Oh, thank you. I also learned how to make naan earlier this week. So so my stock is rising currently around the house.
You should always be learning new things.
Yeah.
Even if it's just warming up some flatbread.
Yeah.
That's the important part. So, Jack, we brought you back. Nate is out and he's in Switzerland trying to do Swiss things and get Swiss stuff going, which is very difficult. If you've been listening to our other episodes, Nate has been cataloging the very many ways that Switzerland is very much not England, for good or bad. But Jack, you, however, have a unique perspective that neither Nate and I experience because I homeschool and Nate has a 1-year-old. You recently had to send your kids back to school.
I did, yeah. And I was just thinking about this, actually. So, my band Recess Monkey and my own solo music is all geared for the family audience, kids and parents together. That sprang from my experience as an elementary school teacher. I was an elementary school teacher in everything from pre-K through 4th grade for 13 years. And it just dawned on me, my son is 13 years old now. And I left teaching when he was born because I realized it was, or at least I thought it would be really hard for me to give my full attention to kids all day long and then have anything left in the afternoon to give to kids of my own. So to me, that was a natural inflection point. But I've just now hit this moment where I have now been a parent longer than I was a classically ordained teacher. So that's interesting. I'm now more dad than teacher for the first time.
This is very much like how Nate and I talk about, we haven't been in the military in X amount of years. You don't really want to talk about it. But now you're reaching that threshold of more of a dad than a teacher, more machine now than man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, totally.
So with back to school, and it's been 13 years, so I know back to school is a little bit probably a little bit different than things are today. But kind of take us as a teacher, from the teacher side of things, what does back to school entail? And let me ask you, you're teaching in Seattle, right?
Correct. Yeah, where I still live. Yeah.
All right, and you were teaching what grade?
Most recently, I taught 1st and 2nd grade, which I think every teacher kind of has their sweet spot. For me, that 6 to 8-year-old range was like, I was built to teach that age group for whatever reason. Like, that's just right where my head is. I guess I never stopped growing after I was 8 years old. Yeah. But I taught everything from pre-kindergartner, so 3-year-olds through, 10 or 11-year-olds. Yeah, so I kind of got that whole range. And it was a school where teachers were encouraged to move around between different ages. So interestingly, I saw a few of my students at various iterations through their career there. Like, I had one student in particular that I had as a 3-year-old, and again as an 8-year-old, and again as a 10-year-old. So that's trippy. Yeah. A good way to feel old yourself.
They get excited. They come in, it's Teacher Jack.
Yeah,
what do they call it? They call you Mr. Foreman, I suppose?
No, just Jack.
Jack.
Yeah,
you're one of those teachers. You're the cool teacher.
Very progressive school. Yeah, I would turn my ball cap backwards, sit down in the chair to get real.
Yeah. So what is first day of school from? Let's talk about it from the teacher's perspective first. So you get all of these kids who have just spent the last 3 months doing nothing.
Yeah.
Or doing stuff, but not doing schoolwork.
Totally.
For the most part. How do you kind of get them back into that mindset?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so that regression is just expected. If you've been around the block enough times as a teacher, you know that pretty much 3/8 of what you spent the previous year doing, that is just poof, it's gone.
Right.
Probably for good reason. It's actually a nice way to shake it down and see all right, so what actually is in there and what were things that you were able to convince your class to just repeat back to you verbatim, but they didn't actually have a handle on. Right. You're getting to the core of where they were. It's like, every year, it's interesting from a teacher's perspective. Every year, you're hopefully, building essentially a family. Like, this class has its own internal culture. It'll be different from year to year. So the first few days as a teacher is just trying to identify person by person, what is each person's role in this larger, community picture.
You got to start giving them their nicknames.
Yeah, totally.
You got Talkie, you got Stinky, you got the names you keep inside of your head.
Yeah,
but,
right.
All right, which ones are the ones that are going to be cracking jokes in the back of the class, and which ones are the ones who are going to show up on time and turn in their homework and everything like that?
Have you seen those videos of teachers in the hallway giving each kid their own highly customized personal personalized handshake or high five on the way into the classroom?
I have not, no.
Oh my gosh, these are worth Googling. It's truly amazing. Like, this is a teacher who has probably been with these kids for 3 or 4 months or more. And it's just like a really great visual interpretation of the relationship that they've built individualized to each person. They all develop their own, handshake or high five or whatever, but they get, like these big performances, like, each one is 10 or 15 seconds of like all these choreographed moves. It's worth Googling. There's some amazing videos of this out there.
One thing that I discovered, and, I was never really a teacher, but I was a sergeant. So in some ways the same, except for all of your students are 18 to 21 and probably drunk half of the time.
So essentially third graders or pre-kindergartners. Yeah.
Right. The brain function is about in the same, same region there. And, I've always discovered that when you have those personal things with each person, like, the higher up in the NCO chain you get, the more people you have. So of course, the less you can do something like this, but it does seem like, if you can, it's a lot easier to get somebody to do what you say when they want to do it, rather than when you're just yelling at them and saying you have to do it because I'm the sergeant and you're not. And things like that kind of reinforce that idea of, because I'm sure those students love him. Like, it's showing that, like, not only do you care enough to choreograph something like this with each individual student and do all these things, but you got to be taking an interest in these kids. It's not like, all right, everybody line up, we're going to learn a new handshake, and then I never want to talk to you again.
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah. And it's funny, like, my wife is also a teacher, and we both agree that it's possible to have too small of a class, because so much of teaching is ideally not about standing at the chalkboard and just, pointing and, repeat after me, this. It's about just creating a culture where kids are kind of teaching themselves or learning from each other. And there's a point where if the class size is too small, there aren't as many opportunities for kids to kind of rise to the occasion that way and do that themselves. So, you want to build this community where, you're building individualized trust, and that's a two-way street. Kids trust you as a teacher. As a teacher, you really trust kids to have ownership over what they're learning. It never feels like us versus them. It's truly a collegial kind of environment. And it's so much so that, like, if your class is big enough and there's enough emphasis on this, kids really are collaborating and teaching each other. And then you have the freedom as a teacher to walk around and just listen in on conversations and, pepper them in with like, hey, did you think about this? Or here's another way to do that. So you're more like a coach taking a knee rather than, one focal point that everyone's, yawning like Ben Stein and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, that's the worst possible scenario. Of course, people don't identify with that.
Yeah, well, I never went to college with the TV movie college experience with, the big lecture halls where everybody's kind of falling asleep because there's, 150 people in there and somebody droning on. Thankfully, I went to a school that no longer exists because it was a for-profit school, but I got my degree out of it, which is what was important.
That was Trump University, right?
Yeah. We learned the art of the deal.
Yeah, very good. Also known as the Art Institute, right?
Exactly. I got my master's in art of the deal.
Wow.
No, I went to Vatterott, and it no longer exists anywhere. But we had like 10 people in our class that was for network engineering, and we had the hardware and software that we needed to do the network engineering stuff. And yeah, it does have like, we're all older. This was definitely one of those colleges that you go to when it's like you spent 18 through 25 making a bunch of mistakes, and you'd be like, ooh, I better do something before I find myself at 45 years old and working in a grocery store.
Totally.
I shouldn't say that. I know grocery workers are unionized, so they're doing pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Around here.
I get you though, yeah.
But yeah, just to be like, hey, I should do something with this youth that I have. So for the most part, everybody in my class was between the ages of like 23 and I want to say about 28 or so. I was right in the middle there, and yeah, we had Gene, who was really good at doing the coding, so we all kind of leaned on him for coding stuff.
Gene the machine.
Yeah, and then we had one guy who did not talk very much, but he was a real beefcake. Like, he was a huge dude, and he had this big like lifted F-250 truck that he came to school in. But like the moment we had to do like an oral presentation of something and stand up, the guy was shaking like a leaf. He couldn't, just in front of like the 9 of us who he's been working with for the last, 6 or 7 months. He really, really nervous guy. And so we were like, hey, you need public speaking, not really a big thing that people in IT have to do on a regular basis.
Sure,
as it turns out, for the most part, they are trying to shove us into a basement somewhere and not let people look at us. So, but like, look, he is like, look, you're intelligent, and I've always said that one big part of IT is being able to talk to people, which is why I do a lot of customer service IT, is because I can talk to people and not be weird about it. So we had that same thing. We had that kind of dynamic where everybody is finding one another's abilities and saying, hey, can you get a big group project or something? Hey, come on over here, take a look at this. Am I doing this right? Because our teacher was a big, like when we did a test, it was everybody at the same time. And the teacher would leave the room and he would just be like, look, I don't consider it cheating if you guys are helping each other, because in the real world, you're going to have people to help you.
Yeah.
And you're going to have books to look at and you're going to have the internet to look at.
Totally.
So build this network based on what I've taught you, but also anything else that you can find. So, which was always the teachers when I was a kid, it's like, you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time. And now, of course, we do. And
right.
Yeah. And of course, nobody was going to predict that. But at the same time, it's like, look, I have the internet at my fingertips at any point in time. I can look up information and apply it. Like today, the day that we're recording, September 12th, AT&T had a massive outage that we all had to deal with. And guess what? I went to the internet. I went to Reddit and was like, hey, Reddit, what's up? What's going on? And they're like, yeah, there's this big thing, that collaboration of information working together. You get that, you have to foster that inside of the classroom because you're going to need it in the real world.
Oh, totally. And by the way, as an aside, they all thought that AI was the one that was going to save us, the galaxy brain. It turns out the actual way to get real information is just search for whatever you need and then just type the word Reddit after it. Yeah. And then there you go. That's the true marketplace of ideas.
Exactly. Like people dog on Reddit, but there are, like, if you're an IT person and something's going wrong, Reddit probably has posted about it before you. So definitely search around there first. Just stay away from the other, ask me anythings or the am I the asshole ones, because that's a pathway to madness.
Sure. Yeah. I spend most of my time on the various Cybertruck subreddits. So good place to...
let me tell you, my daughter loves the Cybertruck. Like, she can't get enough of it. And we actually had an all matte black one that was parked in front of one of the local barber shops. There's a barber shop next to a nightclub, because I live in a very eclectic neighborhood. You can go get your hair done up nice, and then you can go drinking all night. But yeah, it was this all black Cybertruck. She's like, oh, it looks so cool. And I'm going to agree that, if I also was 9 years old, I would think the Cybertruck looks really cool.
It's made for 9-year-olds. That's why it exists.
Yeah, it's I would never buy one because, money, politics, crumple zones, things like that. But looking at it, I would definitely, if I had a small version of it, I would definitely drive it back and forth and go vroom vroom. So
sure. Well, we know it's time to crowdsource this. All the hell of a way to dad listeners, let's get a crowdsource going. And we'll get you a Power Wheels version. What do you think?
It would still be too big, I think.
Okay.
I'm wondering. Hold on. Sorry, I'm looking to see. Yes, there is a Hot Wheels Cybertruck.
Oh, the Hot Wheels. Nice.
Yeah. It's on AliExpress. So
there it is.
Don't lick it. You'll get lead poisoning probably.
It also, it's in the packaging, but 2 of the wheels have already broken off right there inside the blister pack. Just so you can shake it around.
As soon as you take it out, it catches on fire.
That's the only Hot Wheels car that has its own fire safety warning and lithium-ion batteries built in.
Yeah. The age suggestion is the only one that's between 9 and 14. Yeah. Anything outside of that, you don't get to own this.
Totally. Oh, man.
So you as a teacher, that's one, dealing with these new kids, kind of reinforcing maybe what they had in the past. But now, you've been doing it as a parent. So do you have kind of an empty house today, huh?
Oh, my gosh. It's so empty. Yeah. In fact, real talk, I was so inspired by, it was either 1 or 2 episodes ago, Nate was talking about his process of cooking a chicken that was filled with he mentioned drippings, and there were...
Nate's cooking, especially before he was moving, when he was still pretty established in England, we had a lot of discussion about our gardens, and he had bought an outside walk, and we discussed how his basil plants always got eaten by the slugs every year, or as we call them, the hater worms, because they just come hate on everything that you're trying to do. Yeah, he'll just be like, I watched this video of a Mongolian guy making oxtail soup in his backyard over an open fire, so I decided to give that a try. And I made a pretty good cheesecake in my Instant Pot. I've got that going for me.
That's a good idea. Well, I got so inspired by Nate talking about his drippings the other day that I'm on a personal quest to unlock as many different recipes as I can. I've liked cooking in the past, but I've never had time for it. And now that the kids are out of the house, I suddenly have like a good 2 hours a day where I can walk between the 2 grocery stores in our vicinity. It's all within like a 5-minute radius of our house with just that day's recipe in mind and get it all together. So that's been really fun.
Yeah. Do you do any subscription boxes? Did you do subscription boxes?
We did
for
a while. When I was teaching, maybe even a little bit after that, we did a CSA, and it was just all radishes, no matter what we told them. Just oops, all radishes.
we do have a every other week CSA that we pick up from, and it's always like they have things that they're going to give us no matter what, but they have an online store so we can add other things because they've always got like local cheese curds and locally made frozen pizzas. So I am at least sourcing my garbage from my immediate vicinity and not getting my Red Baron stuff sent to me from, I don't know, New York, California, wherever those things are packaged up. I'm getting the real St. Louis Dogtown pizzas that are flash frozen and put into my grocery store. Yeah.
We did that once during the pandemic, just looking for anything that would be exciting. We found some like Italian pizzeria that was actually flash freezing small wood-fired pizzas and shipping them in dry ice. So from Italy, like the next day. So we ordered like 6 of them. They weren't very expensive. They worked out to be maybe $12 a piece or something like that. We thought this was the greatest thing ever. Like, we're traveling without moving. This is the Dune dream. And all our kids cared about was dry ice. They thought that was the best part.
Yeah, that is.
We've got like this delicious pizza and a mixing bowl with water and dry ice bubbling, and that's all they cared about. They didn't eat any pizza.
Yeah, we have a frozen custard place here called Ted Drew's, and when you order something to go, especially when it's really hot, they always drop a couple chunks of dry ice in it in a bag. Like they put it into a bag so you don't burn your fingers on it and drop it in, and then that's always part of it. Like, ooh, I get the ice cream, and then I get to go home, and I like to put them down in my sink, like just down into the sinkhole, and then have the water so it looks like there's you got a whole cauldron going on in your sink. Yeah,
that's a great idea. Yeah, it kills all the fruit flies too. Probably that's a smart move.
We used to do a subscription box called Radish that always came. They would send you the box. It would always come with like a new cooking utensil of some kind, and then 3 recipes, a main course. Usually like a main course, sometimes like starter and a dessert. So you would give you everything, and they were all made to be done with kids. And we tried to do this with our daughter, and she's a very selective eater, which is something that we struggle with. So unfortunately, we didn't keep up with that. But we have a lot of the recipes left over. So if you're ever looking to expand your palate, because they sent me like a ravioli press too. Like they're like, hey, we're gonna make ravioli. Here's like this small plastic ravioli press where you can do all your crimping and everything, and you can make your own ravioli. So learned a lot from that one.
Yeah, that's the dream. Oh man, I'm hoping to work toward the family believing that I should invest in a KitchenAid with the pasta making attachment by the end of the year. But it's it's a big commitment.
My wife is going to love that because we always joke about how when we got married, we didn't put a KitchenAid mixer on our registry, and people are like, why don't you have the KitchenAid mixer? We're like, because we don't need a KitchenAid mixer. Like, but it's got a pasta attachment. Never in my life, Jack, have I ever felt I need to make pasta right now. I'm Irish, all right? If anything, I'm boiling a potato. I'm not making pasta. So
it's a very simple process.
Right. But occasionally we do find the KitchenAid mixers with the ability to attach a pasta maker at our local thrift store.
So do it.
I don't have room. When I had to rebuild my kitchen because a pipe burst in the walls and we had to take the whole thing out. We were like, well, we've got everything pulled away from the wall. We might as well redo the kitchen because it was a really out-of-date kitchen. The house was a rental property for like 20 years before we bought it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had to really flex my home building abilities, which I did a lot of in my last house, which was a 140-year-old Victorian home, which I do not suggest anybody ever start their house owning experience with because that was just a nightmare at times. But we pulled out. The kitchen is small. Like we turned it into as much counter space as we could, but I don't have like a conventional oven. We have a countertop oven. It can fit a frozen pizza and it can fit a 11 by 13 Pyrex dish. That's all I really need. I'm not roasting an entire turkey or anything. But also our refrigerator, we have a refrigerator that's a standalone refrigerator and a standalone freezer, and they're both down in the basement. We have like a small refrigerator that we have upstairs for drinks or things that we use like on a daily basis. But it's like anytime we think about like, oh, we should get, maybe we should get this thing. And it's like, it's just going to sit downstairs. Like we've got shelves of all of these appliances that we use. We do use them, like my bread maker, my Instant Pot, my tortilla press, the food processor, the smaller food processor for smaller foods. All of that has a shelf space downstairs. The vacuum sealer has a space. So none of it really gets the only things that stay upstairs are the tea maker, because we make tea every day, the coffee maker, the oven, and that's really about it. Like we try to clear everything else off. Otherwise, I don't know if you have this, I can see your background. You have a very neat, tidy space. We do not live in in any kind of world like that where anything is neat or tidy, unfortunately. So we can't allow ourselves to have too many horizontal surfaces.
Oh, smart. No, that's good. No, you got to know your limitations. Yeah, I'm so insanely anal. Like I was speaking of Reddit just a minute ago, I was reading a thread. These are my favorite. The question is something like, what's a life hack or something you figured out that you wish everyone knew? And it was anytime that you're moving from one room to another, just carry something with you that needs to migrate in that general direction. So you've just always got things moving in the right direction. When I read that thing, it was like, oh, these are my people. I love it. So I immediately looked around this room for something that I can move to another room. And then I found something else in the next room too. I'm very fastidious.
Well, that's good because I am not. One of us should have married you because she and I unfortunately are not. And Beth grew up with a father that was much like you, who was just like, why can't you just put things into the dishwasher? It's in the sink. You can just put it in the dishwasher. Why don't you? And for the love of me, I could not tell you why. Sometimes I have that problem. I generally like when I come inside like in my office, I go inside in the main house, and the first place is the kitchen, and I try to do some cleaning. But we also homeschool, so we have a child that is always bringing things out, and 9-year-olds don't put anything away.
Oh, ever. Totally. Yeah. Oh, I mean, having just gotten through the summer, I feel your pain. I mean, that's the biggest difference here in the house. You said that it must be quiet with the kids gone, but the biggest difference I noticed is that there aren't art supplies out on every surface in every room.
You're not scrubbing watercolor off of the countertops or anything like that.
Yeah. My philosophy, which really helps, I'm just always thinking about giving future me a present. Mm-hmm. Anything that I can do to hook up, it could be 5 minutes from now or the tomorrow morning version of me. So that guy's always feeling gratitude for the present tense guy that hooked that guy up. So we always said coffee the night before. So that means first thing in the morning, you're greeted with the smell of last night's you having brewed a cup of coffee for this morning's you. And just, I'm always paying it forward like that. And it just feels great. Like you're always the recipient of something. And it feels like an act of altruism to hook yourself up in the future.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm of the world of that's future Francis's problem. Current Francis doesn't want to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
And future Francis hates past Francis. That guy's lazy.
Oh man, I was explaining my philosophy to a friend, and that's exactly what she said. She's like, screw that girl.
Yeah.
She can handle it herself.
She doesn't even exist yet. She doesn't know how bad it is.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't know what I have on my plate. Deal with it yourself.
Yeah, she's theoretical. I'm busy. I don't care how busy you are. I'm busy.
All it takes is just one time. All you have to just one time, like do double work to hook up the next person. And then that future person is always the recipient. But yeah, easier said than done, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, it goes along with that do you love yourself kind of thing. And obviously, no, I don't. At least not future self. I don't love that guy.
We love you.
Yeah.
Well, on the homeschooling front, do you notice any kind of change around the house in terms of tempo? Do you even have like a traditional school year schedule where there is like summertime off time? Or are you guys always kind of in a similar cadence over the course of the year?
Well, the cool thing about homeschooling is that in Missouri, not all states, but in Missouri, we have to keep a log, and you have to log 1,000 hours of homeschool every year, and like 600 of them have to be in the core, math, language arts, things of that nature. And then you can do physical education, reading, stuff like that can also go into it. And the great thing about homeschooling is that when you need to start marking these hours down and you spent an hour and a half at the science center, guess what? That counts.
Nice.
That's a field trip.
Yeah.
And this is not to say that we're just like, we just go out and just, let her do whatever. My wife does have, every morning. This morning we have a tent set up in our front yard that can zip close, keep all the bugs and everything out. But it's finally like nice enough that you can sit outside and not be blasted with heat by 9 a.m. So they have traditional curriculums and workbooks and everything. And right now we're kind of doing a national parks thing because you're learning about the national parks, but it also ties into the reading comprehension stuff that you have to do. Read this passage, answer the questions, stuff like that. And we do have wife's going to listen to this. She's going to kill me because I don't know exactly, but I think it's like June or July is when we have our this is the start of the new year, and it's mostly about how my wife, because she does the vast majority of the homeschooling, how she's going to start marking stuff down for the hours and everything.
Yeah. And
we kind of did the whole first day of school, photos that, parents generally will do. They'll post them on social media. Oh, my kid's going off, but it's like first day of school. All right, we're going back inside.
Yeah. Totally. So, I haven't seen our front door for so long. Here it is. Okay, bye. Going back inside.
Yeah. So there is, but I mean, because the homeschooling, it doesn't follow along a schedule that we have to keep for anybody else. I will say we keep to our own schedule, but we're going to Hawaii in 2 weeks and wouldn't be able to do that, if she was in school on during the regular times. We will often, so we generally have a trip to Florida either sometime in December or January, just when we have that, oh God, I have to get out of the St. Louis cold for a little bit and go down to Florida and enjoy the balmy 60 degrees down there. And those things just are not possible. And with my wife being a travel agent and, I have a conventional job, but I also have the store, the podcast, and all these other things. We have the ability to have these vacations and do that. And that was always a big driver of why we wanted to homeschool, is we didn't want to be beholden to the school schedule. We wanted to be able to pick up and go whenever, because we went to Kansas City over Labor Day for my daughter's dance competition.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And we took the train and she did schoolwork on the train. There's always an opportunity to say, hey, let's knock out an hour here, or let's knock out 2 hours here. And then it makes it easier, because what you think, you say, 1,000 hours. So that means we started at 1 o'clock and we better end at 2 o'clock so that we can count it as a full hour. But what other people will say is look, imagine an hour-long class in school with 20 kids. Is that teacher giving your child 1 hour of their attention the entire time? Of course not. You've got 19 other kids. You've got questions coming up. You got to settle them down. They're getting kind of rowdy. So it's you get to, I'm not going to say fudge the numbers, but you get to be a little bit more loose with okay, we're going to start doing this. And it's more about, the 1,000 hours is technically how long a student spends in conventional school during the school year. So that's what they're trying to make sure that you meet up with. And so we get to have that kind of leeway where we can, she stayed in bed till 8:30 this morning.
Oh, man.
Right? And
sold,
especially during this age, and you've got kids. One of your kids is 9 or 10, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes your kid gets insomnia and they're up until midnight or so. I remember our daughter came into our bedroom last night at 11:45. I was half asleep. My wife was awake, and we have a little floor bed that she can unfold and bring her stuffies and sleep on the floor bed if she wants. But if I had to wake her up at 6 in the morning the next day and be like, hey, you need to eat, you need to do this, you need to get your clothes on, then you have to go into this other building with all these other people and be chill the entire time and not be like, I'm so tired and I don't want to be here. When when I'm tired, I'll roll out of bed a little bit late and I can drink coffee all day and I can kind of hide at work a little bit. I work from home, so I can just be like, I'm gonna keep today low key as long as things don't get too crazy. Nobody's over my shoulder making sure I'm doing all this work. So
right.
Just in that scenario, because I walk my dog every morning at anywhere between 6:15, 6:45 in the morning, and I see all these kids that are outside waiting for the school bus, and they're teenagers, that's got to say, you need the most sleep when you're a teenager.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, Seattle actually changed that. Seattle flipped the schedules because they realized the truth that most elementary school kids are waking up at the crack of dawn, like 6:30. Like we had to get those alarm clocks for our kids that had the okay to get out of bed light that would go on when they were young.
Yes.
You know, I mean, they just want to be up. Like they are just
don't bother mom and dad until this light comes on.
Yeah, they're full of piss and vinegar, man. They're ready to go. Versus high school kids, like they're just circadian rhythms are different. They can't go to sleep before 11 p.m. So the idea of getting them out for the activities bus, you know, like when I was in high school, I had a 0 period class, jazz band, where I had to be at school at 6:25. Like, God, get out of here. Like, I mean, I understand for busing it works better, but there's this whole human element that's part of it too. That should probably play a little factor there.
Right. And that's always like, I always see the arguments about, you know, like, oh, we shouldn't have all these big long lines for kid drop off at school. And like the other option is that some kids got to be on a bus for like 4 hours a day.
Oh,
and
totally.
That's not cool for anybody. Like not for the kid who has to deal with it. And then, you know, they don't see their parents either. Like I feel incredibly blessed that and I've been working from home since my daughter was born. Like the company I work for now bought the company that I was working for right when my daughter was born. And they gave me parental leave immediately. And, you know, they're like, yeah, you go work from home. We don't want you in the office. We want you to do your thing, but from home. So I've always been, you know, like my wife will just shoot me a message on WhatsApp. It's like, oh God, the cat, you know, peed on the bed again. And it's like, okay, cool. I got 10 minutes. I can come in and help you strip the bed and get laundry going and things like that. It's nice to have that opportunity. And,
totally.
Yeah. And also just, I'm, you know, I while we were recording, I saw they came home. They were out today and I saw they came home. So after this conversation, I'll go in, say hi, talk to everybody. You know, you don't get that when you have like a regular office job where you have to go in all the time. You don't get to see your kids, and that really sucks. You know, this works. I always catch a lot of stuff from people about homeschooling because they're like, well, what if your kid grows up to be weird? And like, I have unfortunate news to you about my child because she was always going to be weird. Like there was never any doubt in that. Like she's 9. All 9-year-olds are weird. She will talk to you for an hour straight about Pokemon, man. Like, I don't know what. The kids that go to regular schools do that. She's absolutely, you know, and she does taekwondo. She does dance. She sees other kids. She has relationships with other kids and other teachers and other people. So not too worried about it. But
well, just to correct the record just a little bit, if she were in traditional school, she'd be still talking about Pokemon, but also Skibbity Toilet, and they would intermingle. They'd be
exactly. That's what I want to keep her away from. Like, I understand Pokemon. I played Pokemon when I was a kid. Pokemon makes sense to me. Skibbity Toilet, I've watched one video and I'm like, I don't understand what the kids are doing.
Can we talk about Skibbity Toilet really fast? Because
sure, please.
We over the summer we went on our big road trip. We went to this awesome place called Waterworks Park in Northern California, which there used to be another franchise of Waterworks Park in the town that I grew up in outside of Seattle. So I was really excited to get there, and there was this whole group of kids that were it was like parrots, you know, like they were like migrating songbirds, just repeating the words Skibbity Toilet back and forth to each other. It just entered like the lexicon. And I feel like there are a lot of people that are saying these words and don't even know what it is or what they're talking about. I certainly didn't know. I just thought this was like, you know, the
just
equivalent.
A man in a toilet, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. No, this is what I wanted to say.
Okay, good. There's more lore to Skibbity Toilet.
Okay,
good.
So this is what I thought. I thought it was just like some idiotic, it is idiotic, but it was just some repeated meme over and over again. This Skibbity Toilet thing, there are episodes of it. I don't know what number he's up to now in like the 90s or 100s or something. It is a full-blown war epic. It's a story that builds over time.
I've heard that. Yeah, who do they go to war with? Who does Skibbity Toilet?
It's Skibbity Toilet, who's going to war against the adults. I think I'm using air quotes because I don't really know exactly what they are, but they have their own theme song, which is Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. And there are these amazing battle scenes, like straight out of Saving Private Ryan, where Skibbity Toilet is on the move, and then in comes this giant Harrier jet, which is the adults. It's wild, and you can actually follow, I guess, the linear narrative, and just wonder like who's gonna win. Will it be Skibbity Toilet or will it be the adults?
Who's gonna come on top? The man in the toilet or the man in the Harrier jet? Look, I've been to those wars, and it's usually the Harrier jet, but hopefully there's a message of hope here that a man in a toilet can aspire beyond his current station. You know,
I think what what we can be sure of is that no matter who wins in Skibbity Toilet, we all lose. That's all I'm positive about.
And I always promised myself I wasn't going to be like the old man who's like, oh, things were better back in my day. Like, I understand that my music is my music and I liked it because I liked it at the age of 17 or whatever. But also, like, sometimes I'm just like, can't you kids just watch Homestar Runner? Can't you watch something like with something that's got a little bit more family friendly, something that makes a little bit more sense. Like, you got a man in a toilet storming Normandy Beach.
Yeah,
we have a poop smith over here, and we have a luchador wearing boxing gloves answering emails. Like, isn't this something that you would rather have? Turns out the answer is no.
But guys, I say, come on, but guys. That's in my head constantly. I haven't heard that song for 20 plus years. But
yeah, the system is down is the one that I get. Yeah. It's always there's always going to be a new bug for every kid. The kids don't want our memes; they want their own memes. They want, these aren't your dad's memes.
Oh yeah. These are the newest and freshest. And what's interesting, this generation of internet connoisseurs, if you can call them that, they have a firm understanding of irony in a way that I think for our generation took so much longer. I don't think our generation understood ironic detachment until our 20s, versus these kids get ironic detachment when they're like 8. They get it. Like, it's funny on its own level, but then if you look at it from a meta level, it's like, dude, you're a second grader.
Right. Well, I think I'm going to say that I think the problem is that, you and I are old enough to remember the pre-9/11 world.
Oh, yeah.
And so these kids are just like, look, I've been on the internet for a long time. There's a lot of 9/11 memes out there, and that's what these kids are kind of cutting their teeth on.
Oh, so seriously? Yeah.
The ironic detachment is probably more frightening than we would think, but also, like, I work with somebody who is painfully in their early 20s, and she was talking about graduating high school when the pandemic started and how hard it was and everything. And I said, look, I'm not going to be the old man and try to say that, like, mine was worse, but, like, look, every generation needs their trauma. I'm sorry yours was a pandemic, ours was a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Just understand, at least, you're not going to get a Patriot Act out of the COVID thing. So you're good there. You just lost 4 years of your life. So sorry. I guess you could join the army if you want, like the rest of us did, and you can get really ironically detached.
Yeah. You want to look for detachment. There's a one-way ticket.
Yeah, if you want to look for attachment, be like, Afghanistan attacked us. Now you're going to Iraq. Have fun. Like, wait, I'm not doing that math correctly. Oh, there goes a year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, so interesting. I guess maybe Skibbity Toilet is the closest thing to actually experiencing 9/11 and the war in Iraq. Psychologically,
perhaps. Well, and I wonder, like, I would like to, maybe I do need to start watching these and see if they're like, I would love to see the person who does Skibbity Toilet turn it around as a possible learning tool of, like, hey, here's, Skibbity Toilet Vietnam, Skibbity Toilet, the Battle of Chosin Reservoir, things like that.
That makes more sense. I was thinking, like, Skibbity Toilet presents the ×7 math facts. I'd like to see that. Forget flashcards. Skibbity Toilet is just going to handle the 3 R's.
I bet somebody who has a hand in programming could make, you remember Number Munchers?
Oh, yeah.
Number Munchers, but it's a toilet lid that closes on the number.
There it is. You've got some free time, right? This could be your baby.
Yeah, unfortunately, programming was not. That was Gene's thing. I went to Gene for programming.
Oh, Gene the Machine.
Yeah.
For the record, I am not advocating that anyone actually devote meaningful time into watching Skibbity Toilet. It's just more like it was like a bloomin' onion. I had no idea the depth that world actually had achieved.
My wife and I often talk about how we have different internets. The internet that I see, like, especially when it comes to ads. She plays a lot of games.
Oh, yeah.
She plays a lot of mobile games that have rewards to them, and a lot of the rewards are just, by running ads. So she'll run ads while she's crocheting or whatever, just, easy to mute it and hit play and do whatever else. But the ads that she gets are not the ads that I get, and we have a 5-year age difference, but she's a middle-aged woman. I'm a middle-aged man. I get Jake Paul trying to get me to download a solitaire app, and she gets those. She comments, she's like, who's this Jake Paul guy? Isn't he like a boxer or something? And said, I think people are still trying to figure out who this Jake Paul guy is. I don't know why he's on both of our phones now. That's just how it goes. But she gets, a lot of ads for fan fiction apps. Like,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, like places where you can read fan fiction. And she's like, it's the most god-awful stuff you've ever read, too. Like, she's not downloading and reading it, but just looking at the ad and looking at the excerpt that they're reading, and just like, this was written by somebody who did not feel like they needed an editor. Like, I am my own editor, and you can really tell. And she gets those. Luckily, I have a friend who gets all the weight loss ones. I don't get any of those. I don't know if it's, I have to start talking around my phone about like what ads that I want to get, like talking to my phone so that.
Oh, right. Exactly.
I need Mark Zuckerberg to know which one specifically to give to me. And it's all like, give me all the Warhammer 40K book ones, I guess. I don't know. Give me better books. Although I did get a Twitter ad yesterday that said, if you like Jack Reacher, you're going to love Levi Yoder. And so it was like Jack Reacher, but Mennonite. And the picture for this book is this like burly guy in the Mennonite, the blue shirt, the suspenders, the straw hat, like staring down the mean city of whatever he's looking at. It's just like, I'm going to bring God to this or something. I don't know. But it matches up because at the secondhand store that we go to, I always see Amish romance novels too.
Oh, so wow.
We have, right. And here's the thing. I know that from what I have read about people talking about these is they like the Amish ones because they don't want to suddenly get involved in a really badly written sex scene.
Oh, sure.
And then have to slog through it. So like if you want the romance with some like, longing gazes and maybe some furtive kisses, perhaps, we're in at the end, we skip over everything and they're married and they have their first baby and their second one is on the way. That's your Amish romance novel. You can have the romance with Levi and his barn raising, watching his muscles flex through the sweaty shirt while he's raising a barn, but not have to like go any further with it from there.
Oh, yeah. Like they've got to meet cute when they're shearing the same sheep. They just
exactly.
at the same time. Wow.
We looked up at each other while we were churning butter and, our eyes locked.
Wow. I love this idea. I mean, really for any genre, like action adventure, sounds like they've already touched Jack Reacher, but Jebediah Crankshaft. There's so many.
There's a lot, and I read an article about it too. Like apparently, of the three main Amish romance writers, only one of them is actually Amish. So she's the real deal. She's the one who does. She's like, I don't know what these other people are talking about with their like chasing each other with horse-drawn carriages or anything like that. She's like, I write the real stuff.
Okay, what about like a version of Stephen King's It, but it's thou,
the pet cemetery where you bury your fallen draft horse and then it comes back and you're like, get back on the line, dude. I don't care how evil you are. We're going to put blinders on you and you're going to pull this wagon.
Wow. Oh, man.
I think we got something here. We can really start breaking into the Amish/Mennonites entertainment scene here.
Yeah, I really feel like I need to immerse myself in it first, though. I definitely, my reading list is very light right now. So, I'll go get 6 or 8. We'll get started.
I'll get them for you for cheap from the secondhand store. A lot of trade paperbacks of Amish romances. I've also seen they have like K9 romances, which are like working dogs, but like the handlers, not the dogs, but it's just very centered around dogs.
Yeah, bonding over a shared interest. I like too that, like anytime you watch old TV shows or movies, it might seem pretty contemporary until you see the technology they're using. Like, he's on a flip phone. This would never happen now. But you never run into that with Amish fiction because
I have a flip phone.
Hey, okay, but people can't see this. But for the record, that flip phone does have an iPhone-sized screen that just folds in half.
It does. It is a Samsung Galaxy. It is not an old. It's not the old Razor, unfortunately. No.
But I mean, this is the beautiful thing about writing Amish fiction. You never run into anything antiquated in your text. Like you never have to worry about locking in old technology because it's already locked in.
I do worry though. I would want to make sure that I'm doing the Amish and the Mennonites their due. I would have to go live with them for a little bit, live this world, then go do my own Rumspringa, and then come back to it.
Thanks to the freedom that homeschooling affords you, you can do that. Your whole family can become Amish for a solid month, and that probably is social studies curriculum too, right?
Ugh, I don't want to though.
Oh, I think those are clock hours, right? every hour raising a barn is one fewer hour of learning your math facts.
I did build a fence. I had that going for me. So raising a bar, there's a lot of math that goes into that.
Sure.
And a lot of brawn. The unfortunate thing, I don't know somebody to teach me how to be Amish. I'm going to have to go out to, the sticks of Missouri. I think we have Mennonites down in Licking, Missouri, and many of the other further flung areas. Or I could just move to Pennsylvania, go be Pennsylvania Dutch.
There it is. Yeah, definitely.
Well, Jack, I appreciate you coming on to talk to me about everything. I wanted to ask, how's the new cat that I assume that you kept?
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is fun. Last time that we spoke, my family had just determined the source of the frequent nighttime wailing in between our house and our neighbors. It was the feral cat that then we managed to trap and put into our guest room. So we put our foot down and told our kids it's not going to happen. We got a good thing going with our 2 existing cats. There's just no way that we can add one more. It's going to screw everything up. So we started going through the process. We got it scanned. There was no chip. We went through the process of how do we surrender this animal to animal control here in Seattle? And it was a whole thing. Like they required an initial intake form and then a certain amount of cooling off period to make sure it didn't belong to anyone. We had to, put signs up all over the neighborhood, post to social media everywhere and see if this was someone else's cat. I mean, this cat was maybe 3 months old. So in, just dealing with all of that, the workload this was presenting, my wife decided, let's just see if any of the other teachers at school, this is before school had started, let's see if any other teachers might be interested in adopting a cat. She sent an email on her walk to school. It's a 15-minute walk. By the time she got there, she'd already gotten 3 replies. Yes, we'd like the cat.
Give me the kitten.
So first person, and first is probably a good numerator to use because there ended up being 3 people in this chain. The first person showed up. They loved the cat, brought them home, but it did not stop making noise all night. And they lived in an apartment. So they surrendered it directly to the second person who took it. Actually, I think it's still in the possession of the second person who had 2 more cats, but they just couldn't say no. Sure. So this cat now has a name. Its name is Luchadora. They are calling it Lou, and it is out of our hands.
That's the smart thing to do because the cat that we took in was standing on my face this morning at 6 a.m. yelling at me. So
yikes!
The baby cats are very like my other 2 cats. They're not old, but they're cats. They're like 3 or 4 years old, so they're not. They understand. They're like, he'll wake up eventually. He'll get us food. Every morning he wakes up and gives us the same food. It's fine. And then you got this one who's just like, I'm a growing cat. I need you to wake up and give me the food right now. No matter how much you pick me up and throw me onto, or wherever, I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to yell at you about it. So eventually that's going to stop, I hope.
I have no object permanence. Do you even still exist? Let's press your face and find out.
Yeah, you seem to be sleeping. So of course now whenever I see Marie sleeping, I go and I poke her to wake her up. So I don't think she's, getting the same thing, but at least I'm annoying her back. So that's
good for you. Yeah, just this is what it feels like.
We almost had a new dog too. We had a dog, like a mini pincher that was running around the alleyway, and we brought him in. We brought this dog in, and this dog was smaller than all of our cats. Whoa. And we're kind of like, we now know though, like this is the dog we want. Like when our big 100-pound dog is no longer with us, we want a small, compact dog that's about the size of the cats, who is a dog, but is not 100 pounds and insistent.
It's the Fiat of dogs. You just want a little 2-door.
Something a little more portable, a little more travel worthy. You can take that dog on the Amtrak and everything. So it's that's what we're looking for. What we have now is this gargantuan monster who does not listen to anything that you say, who is not, she's trained-ish. I'm not going to say that she's not trained, but when I'm walking her and she catches a scent, she is able to put her body into a stance where she just locks into a spot, and like I have to go and physically lift her up by her harness and move her away from whatever she's smelling.
Oh,
and again,
man.
100-pound dog. So I don't recommend it. I don't recommend a Pyrenees unless you know what you're getting into. And my wife is always like, when I see a Pyrenees at the Humane Society, I always think like, we could get one. We could get another one. We know what to do. And I said, yeah, we know what to do. And that's have an acre of lot and chickens for it to guard, which we don't have. So don't do this to me again.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What a commitment. Okay, good. So something portable. Something you can stick into like a bowling ball bag.
Yeah, and that dog did belong to a neighbor. I saw some neighbor kids running around. Unfortunately, we'd already taken it to the Humane Society. Our Humane Society has like bins that you can just kind of shove an animal into, and they'll pick it up the next day. So we had to do that, and we're like, look, kids, you gotta put a collar on that. If there was a phone number on this, I would have called you and you would have had your dog back.
Yeah,
but,
seriously.
like it's not that hard. But in our neighborhood, like every time there's a loose dog, that dog never has a chip and never has a collar. And like I'm not great about the chips myself. There's a lot of like paperwork that you have to do, but they at least all have a phone number for you to call me at. So.
Yeah, right, of course. Oh man.
Well, Jack, I appreciate you filling in for Nate. I appreciate your perspective on teaching and parenting and everything like that. We'll get you back on at a future date. We'll talk about how your kids are doing and what your adventures at home, cleaning, making sure everything is up to snuff and all that stuff.
Oh, I love being here. Thanks for the invitation, and let's do it again.
Yeah. Everybody, if you like what you're hearing, you can always get more on our Patreon, hellofawaytodie.com. Unfortunately, we're not able to change that one, the branding on that one. So that is still there. But $5 a month gets you access to everything we've done for 8 years. 8 years in November it will be. So you have lots of things to listen to. Until next week, thank you so much for listening. Jack, thanks for joining us, and have a good one.
Toodaloo.